Today we will discuss about synaptic transmission. Synaptic transmission. Now in the body, nerve impulses are transmitted from one neuron to the other neuron through synapses. So synapse is a junction between two neurons. Synapse is a junction between two neurons. Synapses are different types. Exodendritic, I mean synapse between the axon of one neuron and dendrite of the other neuron. Synapse may be exosomatic, that is, axon of one neuron and the cell body of the other neuron. Then the synapse may be exoaxonal, between the axons of two neurons. In most of these synapses, transmission of nerve impulse is chemical. So in most of these synapses, transmission of the nerve impulse is chemical. That is, through the chemical neurotransmitter, there is transmission of nerve impulse through the synapses. So we can say that most of the synapses are chemical synapses, and this transmission of nerve impulse involves the neurotransmitter. In some synapses, which are called electrical synapses, nerve impulses are transmitted through electrical synapses without release of the chemical neurotransmitter. Actually, at these chemical synapses, there are, as these electrical synapses, there are gap junctions. You see? So there are gap junctions in these electrical synapses. This is the chemical synapse involving the release of the neurotransmitter, chemical neurotransmitter. And this is the electrical synapse, which involves actually gap junctions between two neurons. Now these gap junctions are highly permeable to ions. Highly permeable to ions are these gap junctions. So nerve impulse action potential can be rapidly conducted through these electrical synapses. You know, gap junctions are present in some parts of the brain. These are present in smooth muscle, and also the cardiac muscle. We come back to the chemical synapses, because most of these synapses are the chemical synapses. This is a chemical synapse. You see, this is the synaptic knob, right, of one neuron, and this is the part of the second neuron, right? So this is a presynaptic neuron. Its part is presynaptic terminal, and this is the postsynaptic membrane. And you see there is synaptic cleft between the presynaptic membrane and the postsynaptic membrane. The synaptic cleft between the presynaptic membrane and the postsynaptic membrane. And the synaptic cleft is of 20 to 30 nanometer wide. It is 20 to 30 nanometer wide. Now in the synaptic terminal or presynaptic terminal, a synaptic knob, you see a number of vesicles, and these vesicles contain the chemical neurotransmitter. So the vesicles in the synaptic knob or in the presynaptic terminal, it contains the chemical neurotransmitter. You can also see the mitochondria, and these mitochondria in the synaptic knob or presynaptic terminal help in the synthesis of the neurotransmitter. You see, at the postsynaptic membrane, there are receptor proteins. So these receptor proteins have got two types of receptor protein. One is inotropic, and other is the metabotropic. Now, in inotropic receptor protein, when there is binding of the neurotransmitter with the receptor protein, there is gating, opening or closure of ion channels. Opening or closure of ion channels when there is binding of the neurotransmitter with the receptor protein, that is the inotropic receptor protein. Right? Then in some cases, there is metabotropic protein, and that is that binding of neurotransmitter with the metabotropic protein, receptor protein, it results into activation of G protein, and then through second messenger mechanism, there may be opening or closure of the ion channels. Right? But in most way, it is the inotropic type of receptor protein. When there is binding of the neurotransmitter with the protein, there is gating, opening or closure of the ion channel. Right? So this is the structure of the synapse. Now keep in mind, on a single motor neuron, thousands of synaptic knobs terminate to form synapses. On a single motor neuron, thousands of synaptic knobs terminate to form the synapses. Now, I've discussed about the events which occur during synaptic transmission. Events that occur during synaptic transmission. The nerve impulse reaches the synaptic knob or the presynaptic terminal. Right? So nerve impulse or action potential reaches the synaptic knob or the presynaptic terminal. And this causes depolarization of the membrane of synaptic knob. It causes depolarization of the membrane of the synaptic knob. And this results into opening of voltage-gated calcium channels in the membrane of synaptic knob. Opening of voltage-gated calcium channels in the membrane of synaptic knob. So there is calcium influx from ECF into the synaptic knob. Calcium influx from ECF into the synaptic knob. And calcium ions in the synaptic knob, it causes agitation of some of the synaptic vesicles. And some of the synaptic vesicles, these move towards the membrane of the synaptic knob. These move towards the membrane of synaptic knob. These vesicles fuse with the membrane of synaptic knob. Rupture to release the neurotransmitter. By exocytosis into the synaptic cleft. So some of the synaptic vesicles move towards the membrane of synaptic knob. These fuse with the membrane of synaptic knob, rupture, and by exocytosis, these release the neurotransmitter into the synaptic cleft. You see, neurotransmitter is being released into the synaptic cleft. Right? neurotransmitter, it diffuses towards the receptors on the postsynaptic membrane, right? And this neurotransmitter bind with the inotropic receptor protein. And this causes opening of the ion channel. In some cases, the neurotransmitter may bind with the metabotropic receptor protein to activate the second messenger mechanism. Now, when there is the binding of the neurotransmitter with the receptor protein, depending upon the type of neurotransmitter released, and the type of change in the permeability of the postsynaptic membrane, and the type of change in the permeability of the postsynaptic membrane, postsynaptic neuron is either excited or inhibited. So I told you, depending upon the type of neurotransmitter released, whether excitatory or inhibitory, and the type of change in the permeability of the postsynaptic membrane, postsynaptic neuron is excited or inhibited. Now, when an excitatory neurotransmitter binds with the receptors on the postsynaptic membrane, there is opening of cation channels, there is influx of cations, mainly sodium, and this sodium influx, it causes localized change in the membrane potential. And this is called postsynaptic membrane potential. PSP. Postsynaptic membrane potential, or PSP. Now, as the neurotransmitter is excitatory, so it will be EPSP. And that is excitatory postsynaptic membrane potential, or EPSP. Now, keep in mind, an excitatory neurotransmitter binds with the receptor protein, opening of cation channels, sodium influx, localized change in the membrane potential, which is called EPSP, excitatory postsynaptic membrane potential. EPSP resembles EPP. What is EPP? End plate potential. We have discussed in the neuromuscular transmission about the EPP, end plate potential. So keep in mind, EPSP resembles EPP. Same property, localized potential change. It is non-propagating, is of longer duration, no reflective period. It is graded. I mean, the voltage of EPSP depends upon the amount of neurotransmitter released. The voltage of EPSP depends upon the amount of the neurotransmitter released. More neurotransmitter, more will be the voltage of EPSP. Less neurotransmitter, less will be the voltage of EPSP. Now, because of the EPSP, membrane potential of postsynaptic membrane increases from the resting potential value of minus 65 millivolt to minus 45 millivolt, there is generation of action potential in the postsynaptic neuron. Right? Resting membrane potential in the cell body of the neuron, or you say postsynaptic neuron, is minus 65 millivolt. There is EPSP, excitatory postsynaptic membrane potential, which resembles EPP. So because of EPSP, which is due to sodium influx, because of the EPSP, the membrane potential from minus 65 millivolt, it goes to minus 45. It goes to minus 45. And minus 45 is the threshold of excitation of the postsynaptic neuron. So minus 45 is the threshold of excitation of the postsynaptic neuron. So when membrane potential reaches minus 45, there is excitation of the postsynaptic neuron, and there is separate generation of the action potential in the postsynaptic neuron. So this is the event which occurs when an excitatory type of neurotransmitter is released, and it causes generation of EPSP, and because of the EPSP, action potential is generated in the postsynaptic neuron. So what is the purpose of EPSP? The purpose of EPSP is to bring the membrane potential of the postsynaptic neuron from the resting value of minus 65 millivolt to the threshold of excitation, that is minus 45 millivolt. So keep in mind the same purpose as that of the EPP, and that is to bring the membrane potential from the resting value of minus 65 millivolt to minus 45 millivolt, that is the threshold of excitation. Threshold of excitation. So this is the event which occurs when there is release of excitatory type of neurotransmitter and there is production of EPSP. Now in another case, the neurotransmitter is inhibitory. Neurotransmitter is inhibitory. So when an inhibitory neurotransmitter binds with the receptors, there is possibility of two types of ion channel change. One is opening of potassium channels, which results into potassium efflux. So opening of potassium channel which results into potassium efflux. And the other mechanism is that there is opening of chloride channels. So when there is opening of potassium channels, what will happen? There will be potassium efflux. So inside of the neuron becomes more negative. Because of the potassium efflux. So potassium efflux occurs, and inside of the neuron becomes more negative. The other mechanism is there is opening of chloride channels, and this results into chloride influx of chloride ions. Right? So this potassium efflux or chloride influx, so potassium efflux and chloride influx, it results into more negative membrane potential in the postsynaptic neuron. So potassium efflux and chloride influx, it results into more negative membrane potential in the postsynaptic neuron, and this is called hyperpolarization. Hyperpolarization, so because of the hyperpolarization, more negative membrane potential postsynaptic neuron, it becomes inhibited. It becomes inhibited. It becomes inhibited. Right? Now when there is inhibition of postsynaptic neuron, there is production of IPSP. Production of IPSP. And what is IPSP? It is inhibitory postsynaptic membrane potential. Inhibitory postsynaptic membrane potential. So keep in mind, when there is release of inhibitory type of neurotransmitter, there is opening of not sodium channel, potassium channel and chloride channel. Potassium efflux, chloride influx, it results into more negative membrane potential, hyperpolarization, and there is inhibition of postsynaptic neuron. And this is because of the IPSP, that is, the membrane potential becomes more negative. Normally it is minus 65 millivolt. It becomes minus 70 millivolt, you see. Normally it is minus 65 millivolt. It becomes minus 70 millivolts, and this is called IPSP, inhibitory postsynaptic membrane potential, or this is because of the hyperpolarization or more negative membrane potential. So this is the mechanism by which there is inhibition of postsynaptic neuron. Inhibition of postsynaptic neuron. So this is the postsynaptic inhibition. In the postsynaptic inhibition, the neurotransmitter is glycine. So don't forget that glycine is the neurotransmitter in the postsynaptic inhibition. And this postsynaptic inhibition, it can last for say 10 to 15 milliseconds. So postsynaptic inhibition, it can last for 10 to 15 milliseconds, and neurotransmitter involved is glycine. So glycine is neurotransmitter involved in the postsynaptic inhibition. Now we have discussed about the postsynaptic inhibition involving IPSP. There is another type of inhibition which is called presynaptic inhibition. Presynaptic inhibition. So another type of inhibition is presynaptic inhibition. Now we have discussed about the postsynaptic inhibition involving glycine as neurotransmitter, and duration is 10 to 15 milliseconds. This is the presynaptic inhibition. You see, this is synaptic nerve forming a synapse with motor neuron or postsynaptic neuron. Now in presynaptic inhibition, synaptic nerve, it forms an additional synapse. I am discussing about presynaptic inhibition, in which synaptic nerve, it forms additional synapse with another synaptic nerve. It forms additional synapse with another synaptic nerve. Now, at this synapse between additional synaptic nerve, there is release of inhibitory type of neurotransmitter. Now understand that synaptic knob making synapse with the postsynaptic neuron or motor neuron, it forms an additional synapse with an additional synaptic knob. At this synapse, there is release of inhibitory neurotransmitter. Right? So this synaptic knob is inhibited. By this inhibitory neurotransmitter, synaptic knob is inhibited. And keep in mind, this synaptic knob is presynaptic knob actually, or presynaptic terminal. So instead of postsynaptic neuron, presynaptic knob or synaptic knob is inhibited. Why? Because of an additional synapse with another synaptic knob. At this synapse, there is release of the inhibitory neurotransmitter. And this is called the presynaptic inhibition. It is called the presynaptic inhibition. Right? So this is the presynaptic inhibition in which synaptic knob or presynaptic knob, it forms an additional synapse with another synaptic knob. At this additional synapse, there is release of inhibitory neurotransmitter, and this results into inhibition of this synaptic knob, and this is called presynaptic inhibition. It is called presynaptic inhibition. Now in the presynaptic inhibition, the neurotransmitter is GABA. GABA, gamma amino butyric acid. So gamma amino butyric acid, GABA, is neurotransmitter in the presynaptic knob. So GABA, that is the gamma amino butyric acid, is the neurotransmitter in presynaptic inhibition. Presynaptic inhibition lasts for much longer period. It may last for minutes to hours. It may last for minutes to hours. So keep in mind, presynaptic inhibition, it lasts for minutes to hours. Right? So we have discussed about two types of inhibitions: postsynaptic inhibition and also the presynaptic inhibition, and these involve production of IPSP, that is the inhibitory postsynaptic membrane potential. And for postsynaptic inhibition, which is neurotransmitter, glycine. And for presynaptic transmission, for inhibition, the neurotransmitter is GABA or the gamma amino butyric acid. So this was about the synaptic transmission, and that is through the inotropic type of receptor. In some cases, there may be binding of neurotransmitter with the metabotropic receptor in some cases, right? And that is through the formation of second messenger. G protein is activated, and there is formation of second messenger, maybe cyclic AMP, right? And this results into the change in the membrane potential and other changes, right? This is the binding of the neurotransmitter to the metabotropic receptor, right? So this is the mechanism of the synaptic transmission, right?
$28.
Okay.